There was a time when humans feared machines. People imagined wars against artificial intelligence, robots replacing jobs, cold metal hands taking control of civilization. Funny enough, none of that happened. The truth was far quieter. Machines didn't destroy humanity. Comfort did. At first, the changes felt harmless, tiny improvements. Algorithms learned what people liked before they did. Entertainment became endless. Loneliness became manageable through virtual companionship. Pain became treatable instantly. Nobody complained. Why would they? Life became easier. And humans love easy. Then slowly, without anyone fully noticing, people stopped needing each other emotionally. Why struggle through heartbreak when memories could be deleted? Why chase purpose when artificial fulfillment could be streamed directly into the brain? Why face discomfort when technology could numb it instantly? Humanity solved suffering the same way a person solves a fire alarm, by removing the sound instead of the fire. The world that emerged afterward looked perfect from the outside. Wars nearly disappeared. Violent crime collapsed. Mental breakdowns became rare. People smiled constantly, but not because they were happy, because they were stabilized, regulated, emotionally optimized. And somewhere deep beneath the polished surface of civilization, something ancient began dying quietly. Ambition, curiosity, passion, the dangerous, beautiful chaos that once pushed humanity to create impossible things. People no longer dreamed wildly, no longer risked everything for love, no longer fought passionately for meaning. They simply consumed comfort until death arrived politely, and eventually, nobody remembered what being truly alive even felt like. But history has a strange habit. Truth never stays buried forever. Sometimes it leaks through corrupted files, forgotten memories, people asking dangerous questions, or a single sentence whispered at the wrong time. They turned humanity into pets. For 19-year-old Reyan Kapoor, those 6 words would destroy everything he believed about the world. Because once you notice humanity slowly disappearing, you can never unsee it. And the scariest part? The system controlling civilization isn't powered by violence, it's powered by temptation. This is not a story about evil robots. It's a story about people. People so exhausted by pain that they willingly traded freedom for comfort. People so addicted to distraction that reality itself became unbearable. People who forgot that suffering and meaning were always connected. And somewhere inside this collapsing world, one emotionally numb boy is about to discover the most dangerous truth in human history. Maybe humanity was never meant to feel comfortable all the time. Maybe pain was never the enemy. Maybe forgetting how to struggle was. Nobody cried anymore. That was the first thing Reyan noticed growing up in New Delhi. People still smiled, still laughed, still posted filtered happiness across social feeds every hour. But real emotion? Gone. Everything felt optimized. Breakups lasted 20 minutes because clinics could chemically mute emotional pain instantly. Funerals became silent formalities, where grief suppressants were distributed beside flowers. Even children stopped throwing tantrums after neural calming implants became mandatory in schools. Humanity had finally achieved peace, and somehow, peace felt horrifying. Reyan Kapoor sat inside cubicle 94B, staring at another dying memory. Literally. A holographic neural stream floated above the silver desk, flickering softly like damaged light trapped underwater. Fragments of someone's life drifted through the air. A birthday cake, rain on a balcony, a little girl laughing. Then static swallowed everything. Reyan barely reacted. After 5 years working at Mindwash Solutions, emotional detachment became survival. His job was simple. Locate painful memories, extract them, delete them permanently. Trauma removal, clean, legal, profitable. The slogan above every company hallway said the same thing: why suffer unnecessarily? Most people loved the service. Heartbreak, delete it. PTSD, gone in one session. Embarrassing memories, erased before dinner. Human beings had basically turned emotions into unwanted software bugs, and business was booming. Client 782 ready for extraction. The automated voice echoed through Reyan's headset. He sighed quietly. Another brain. Another cleanup. Across the room, his co-worker Talia spun lazily in her chair while chewing synthetic gum. "You ever think we're secretly villains?" she asked casually. Reyan didn't look up. "Every Tuesday." "Nice." She pointed toward the neural stream hovering above his desk. "What's this one?" "Divorce trauma." "Oof." "Yeah." Talia shrugged. "At least they won't remember it." That sentence should have felt comforting. Instead, it always sounded dystopian. The extraction chamber looked like a futuristic dentist office designed by depressed billionaires. Cold white walls, silver neural cables, machines humming softly overhead. The client already sat inside the memory chair when Reyan entered. Male, mid-50s, pale skin, trembling hands. Fear still existed, apparently. Reyan attached the neural connectors calmly. "First procedure?" he asked. The man nodded weakly. "Will it hurt?" "No," Reyan replied automatically. That part was true. Physical pain disappeared from most modern medicine years ago. Emotional pain, though? That's what society became terrified of. The client swallowed nervously. "I just want the memories gone." Reyan prepared the neural scanner. "What memories specifically?" The man stared ahead blankly. "My son." Something in his voice sounded wrong. Not sad. Empty. Like grief had already hollowed him out before the procedure even began. Reyan activated the scan. Immediately the room filled with projected memories drifting through holographic light. A small child running through snow. Birthday candles. Hospital monitors. Then came the final memory. A funeral. The father collapsed beside the coffin, screaming silently, while neural suppressants flooded his bloodstream. The system tagged the memory automatically. Extreme trauma detected. Reyan prepared the deletion sequence. Standard procedure, but just before activation, the client grabbed his wrist suddenly. Hard. Reyan froze. The man's eyes widened in terror. Then he whispered, "They turned humanity into pets." Silence. Reyan frowned. "What?" The client's breathing became uneven, panic rising fast. No ambition, no suffering, no resistance. His voice cracked violently. "That's how they control us." Okay, cool. Conspiracy theory breakdown. Exactly what Reyan needed during a 10-hour shift. "Sir, relax. You don't understand." The man gripped tighter desperately. "They're erasing people emotionally before they erase them physically." The monitors suddenly glitched overhead. Warning symbols flashed red. Neural instability detected. The client's pupils expanded unnaturally. Blood trickled slowly from his nose. Reyan stepped backward instantly. "Medical team." But the man ignored him completely. Instead, he whispered one final sentence. "Find the hidden memory." Then every machine in the room died simultaneously. Darkness swallowed the chamber. Emergency lights flickered on 30 seconds later. Too late. The client sat motionless in the chair. Dead. No struggle. No visible injury. Just gone. Reyan stared silently while alarms screamed overhead. Talia burst into the room moments later. "What happened?" Reyan didn't answer immediately, because something impossible had just appeared on the dead man's neural monitor. A corrupted file, hidden deep beneath authorized memory records. Black screen, white text, simple, terrifying. 404. Human not found. 3 hours later, Mindwash executives buried the incident immediately. Standard corporate behavior. Security teams confiscated recordings. Medical reports vanished. Employees received silence contracts before sunrise. By morning, the dead client officially never existed. Classic dystopian efficiency. Reyan sat alone in the employee cafeteria afterward, feeling strangely numb. Not shocked. That was the disturbing part. A man died in front of him, and emotionally he felt almost nothing, just static. Talia dropped into the seat across from him, holding 2 caffeine patches. You okay? Probably. Wow, inspiring answer. Reyan rubbed his eyes tiredly. You ever feel disconnected from yourself? Talia blinked. That got depressing fast. I'm serious. She leaned back slightly. I think everybody feels that now. Reyan looked around the cafeteria. Nobody talked much anymore. Most employees sat silently consuming entertainment streams through retinal implants while eating mechanically. No eye contact, no real conversations, just stimulation. Infinite stimulation. Talia noticed his expression. You know what my grandfather used to say? What? He said old humans felt everything too much. Reyan frowned slightly. What does that mean? He said people used to cry over songs, fight for love, lose sleep chasing dreams. She laughed softly. Sounds exhausting, honestly. But Reyan didn't laugh, because suddenly something uncomfortable hit him. He couldn't remember the last time he felt deeply about anything. Not joy, not grief, not excitement, nothing. His life felt emotionally muted, like someone turned the volume of existence down years ago without him noticing. That night, Reyan returned to his apartment high above the endless neon skyline of New Delhi. The city looked beautiful from up there, artificially beautiful. Flying traffic streams glowed blue across the darkness, while giant holographic advertisements covered skyscrapers. Feel better instantly. Pain is obsolete. TM. Upgrade your emotional experience. TM. Humanity had turned emotions into subscription services. Wild sentence. Reyan collapsed onto his couch exhausted. Then his neural tablet vibrated suddenly. Unknown source. Detected, he frowned immediately. Private transmissions were nearly impossible to bypass inside city networks. The screen glitched once, then opened automatically. One file transferred instantly. No sender, no traceable origin. Only a title. Humanity, Original, MP4. Reyan hesitated. Every instinct said reported immediately. Naturally, he opened it instead. Static filled the screen first, then blurry footage appeared. Old footage, ancient by modern standards. Real humans, not enhanced, not chemically stabilized, not emotionally regulated. People protesting violently in streets, people crying openly, people screaming, laughing, falling in love, living. The footage cut rapidly between wars, revolutions, heartbreak, triumphs, riots, discoveries. Humanity at full emotional intensity, messy, chaotic, alive. Then a distorted voice spoke through the static. Pain created progress. Another clip flashed. Scientists, artists, athletes, revolutionaries. The voice continued. Suffering created ambition. More images, people building impossible things, risking everything, changing history. Then came the final sentence. The screen turned black. White text appeared slowly. Comfort is killing evolution. Reyan stopped breathing for a second, because deep inside himself, some forgotten emotional part finally reacted. Not fully, just slightly, but enough. Enough to scare him. The tablet glitched violently one final time. Then a location appeared across the screen. Coordinates. Below them sat a single message. If you want the truth, come alone. The coordinates led underground, which already felt illegal. New Delhi never slept, but beneath the neon towers and floating transit lanes existed another city entirely. Hidden tunnels, abandoned subway systems, forgotten infrastructure buried beneath corporate perfection. Reyan stood outside an old maintenance entrance at 2:13 a.m., questioning every life decision that brought him here. A rusted sign above the stairwell flickered weakly. Sector 19, decommissioned. Definitely the type of place where people either discover truth or lose kidneys. The metal door creaked open before he touched it. Great. Even the horror movie timing was aggressive tonight. The tunnel below smelled like dust and old electricity. Most lights were dead. Only faint red emergency strips illuminated the path ahead. Reyan moved carefully deeper underground, while city noise disappeared above him. His neural tablet kept glitching in his pocket. Static bursts, signal interference, unauthorized network activity detected. Then, a voice echoed through the darkness. "You're late." Reyan spun instantly. A girl stepped from the shadows holding some kind of hacked projection device glowing blue against her black jacket. Mid-20s maybe, sharp eyes, half-shaved silver hair, expression permanently stuck between exhausted and dangerous. "You sent the file?" Reyan asked cautiously. She ignored the question completely. "You work for Mindwash." "Yeah." "Then statistically speaking, you're emotionally dead inside." "Okay, cool." Hostile greeting unlocked. Reyan crossed his arms. "And statistically speaking, you sound annoying." Unexpectedly, she smiled slightly. "Good. Sarcasm usually means there's still brain activity left." She stepped closer. "My name's Lyra." "Reyan." "I know." That sentence immediately ruined the vibe. Lyra led him deeper into the tunnels until they reached an enormous underground chamber filled with old computer servers and stolen tech equipment. Screens covered the walls, displaying encrypted data streams and surveillance feeds from across Neo Delhi. It looked like a Cyberpunk hacker starter pack exploded. Reyan stared around cautiously. "What is this place?" "Reality," Lyra replied casually. That sounded dramatically illegal. "Because it is." She tossed him a small neural blocker device. "Wear it." "Why?" "Because your implant is tracking your emotional patterns right now." Reyan froze. "What?" Lyra looked genuinely confused. "You seriously didn't know?" A cold feeling crawled slowly through his chest. "No." She sighed heavily. "Wow. They really trained your generation not to ask questions." Lyra activated one of the giant screens. A corporate logo appeared immediately. Nexa, the largest tech corporation on Earth. Officially, they managed emotional wellness systems globally. Unofficially? Apparently nightmare fuel. Reyan frowned. "What does Nexa have to do with memory deletion?" Lyra looked directly at him. "Everything." The screen shifted rapidly through hidden documents and neurological diagrams, human emotional response charts, behavioral suppression studies, chemical dependency statistics. Reyan's stomach tightened slowly. Lyra pointed toward one graph. 20 years ago, global anxiety and depression rates exploded. "Yeah, I learned that in school." "Did they also teach you what happened afterward?" Reyan stayed silent. Lyra tapped the screen again. "Governments partnered with Nexa to stabilize society." Another chart appeared. Rage reduction, grief suppression, aggression control. Human emotional intensity declined globally year after year. Reyan frowned. "That sounds good, though." Lyra looked at him carefully. "Does it?" Silence. Then she walked toward another screen displaying endless social media feeds. "People stopped fighting wars," she admitted. "Cool." New data flashed. But so did innovation collapse rates, creative decline indexes, ambition reduction statistics. Reyan stared harder now. Lyra continued quietly. "People also stopped dreaming." That landed strangely, because deep down, he knew exactly what she meant. Nobody chased impossible things anymore. Nobody obsessed passionately over art, discovery, love, purpose. Modern humans just consumed comfort endlessly until death arrived politely. The realization made his skin crawl. Lyra watched his reaction carefully. "You feel it now, don't you?" "What?" "The numbness." Reyan looked away immediately. Because yes, he did. Every day. Lyra walked toward an old projector sitting near the back wall. "You know why they call your generation emotionally stable?" She activated the machine. Ancient footage flickered across the wall. Teenagers from decades earlier, laughing uncontrollably, falling in love recklessly, fighting passionately over dreams and beliefs. They looked alive in a way modern people didn't. Messy, human. Lyra's voice softened slightly. Humans weren't designed for permanent comfort. The footage shifted. Now came riots, political revolutions, artists creating masterpieces, athletes collapsing from obsession. Pain made people dangerous, she whispered. Another screen displayed modern society, perfectly regulated citizens scrolling endlessly through customized entertainment streams. Nobody angry, nobody deeply sad, nobody deeply alive either. Reyan swallowed slowly. This can't be real. Lyra laughed once. That's exactly what they trained you to say. Suddenly, alarms screamed through the underground chamber. Every screen flashed red. Unauthorized signal trace detected. Lyra cursed immediately. They found your implant. Reyan's pulse spiked. What does that mean? It means Nexa knows you're here. Somewhere far above them, heavy mechanical sounds echoed faintly through the tunnels. Drones. Searching. Lyra grabbed equipment rapidly while shutting systems down. Move. What's happening? You touched restricted memory files, she snapped. That dead client wasn't random. Reyan's heart pounded harder. What was he? Lyra hesitated briefly, then answered. Former Nexa scientist. Silence. Cold silence. He discovered what they were really building. Before Reyan could ask more, one of the monitors suddenly switched on by itself. Static filled the screen. Then a man appeared, older, calm, sharp blue eyes, expensive suit, terrifyingly composed. Dr. Elias Varen, founder of Nexa, the most powerful man on Earth. Reyan recognized him instantly from global broadcasts. Varen smiled slightly through the static. Good evening, Reyan. Every hair on Reyan's arm stood up immediately. Lyra looked furious. How did he breach this system? Varen ignored her completely. His eyes stayed locked on Reyan. You've seen things you were not meant to see. Reyan forced himself to speak. What are you people doing to humanity? Varen's expression barely changed. Saving it. Classic villain response. Varen folded his hands calmly. Human civilization nearly destroyed itself repeatedly through emotional instability. Wars. Extremism. Mass violence. Human beings evolved faster technologically than psychologically, Varen continued. We simply corrected the imbalance. Lyra stepped toward the screen angrily. You chemically neutered humanity. No, Varen replied softly. We removed unnecessary suffering. Reyan stared at the man silently, because part of him hated how reasonable Varen sounded. That was the scary part. Varen looked directly into the camera again. You feel disconnected, don't you, Reyan? The question hit instantly. You've noticed your emotions fading for years. Varen's voice stayed calm. But imagine the alternative. The screen flashed violently. Wars, mass shootings, suicides, riots. Pain creates chaos, Varen said quietly. Then the images changed again. Now modern society appeared. Peaceful, stable, efficient. Humanity begged for salvation, Varen whispered. We simply delivered it. Silence filled the chamber. Then Varen leaned slightly closer toward the screen. And yet, for the first time, his expression shifted. Curiosity. You reacted emotionally to the archived footage. Reyan froze. Varen smiled faintly. Interesting. The connection abruptly terminated. Darkness swallowed the screens again. Lyra immediately grabbed Reyan's arm. We need to leave. Now. But Reyan barely moved, because one terrifying realization had just hit him. The most dangerous man on Earth now knew his name, and somehow seemed interested in him. The drones arrived 6 minutes later. That's how long it took the most powerful corporation on Earth to respond to curiosity. Reyan sprinted through underground tunnels beside Lyra, while mechanical search units tore through the darkness behind them. Metal footsteps echoed violently. Red scanner lights swept across walls. Somewhere overhead, automated voices repeated calmly. Unauthorized cognitive activity detected. Remain still for emotional stabilization. Which was an absolutely insane sentence. Lyra vaulted over broken rail tracks effortlessly. Reyan nearly died attempting the same thing. You could have mentioned the homicidal robots earlier, he shouted. They're technically non-lethal. Not comforting! A plasma scanner blasted into the wall beside him. Concrete exploded outward. Okay, cool. Maybe technically non-lethal in the same way drowning is technically hydration. They finally escaped through an abandoned transit exit nearly 2 kilometers away. Rain slammed against the city streets above. Neo Delhi glowed endlessly beneath giant holographic advertisements promoting emotional wellness subscriptions. Feel nothing. Live better. The irony was becoming physically aggressive at this point. Lyra shoved Reyan into the back seat of an old electric transport car hidden beneath the bridge. Head down. What now? Now? She activated the engine. Now your life becomes extremely inconvenient. The car launched into traffic instantly. Reyan stared out the rain-covered window while his heartbeat slowly normalized. Nothing felt real anymore. Yesterday, he deleted breakup memories for board executives. Today, the world's largest corporation wanted him captured because he watched old humans cry on video. Life moved fast sometimes. For several minutes, neither spoke. Only neon reflections sliding across the glass. Then Reyan finally asked, "What did Varen mean by unauthorized cognitive activity?" Lyra laughed bitterly. "You really don't understand how deep this goes." That sentence is getting old. She glanced at him briefly. Okay, simple version? Please. Nexa doesn't just regulate emotions. She paused. They regulate behavior. Cold silence filled the vehicle. Reyan frowned. How? Lyra reached into her jacket and tossed him a tiny silver capsule. This is a dopamine inhibitor. Reyan stared at it cautiously. That sounds illegal. Everything useful is illegal now. She pointed toward the city outside. Look around. Reyan did. Massive entertainment towers covered entire districts. People walked through streets wearing neural immersion visors. Most barely spoke to each other. Every surface displayed personalized stimulation feeds designed specifically for individual brain chemistry. Infinite distraction, infinite comfort, infinite escape. Lyra's voice softened slightly. Humans evolved through struggle, she said quietly. But once technology learned how to simulate pleasure instantly, she looked directly at him. People stopped developing themselves. That hit harder than Reyan expected, because deep down, he already knew she was right. The car stopped outside a rooftop apartment hidden above an old bookstore. Lyra's safe house, apparently. Inside looked chaotic but alive. Real books stacked everywhere. Handwritten notes covering walls. Actual plants. No emotional regulation systems. No neural advertisements. No synthetic atmosphere optimization. For the first time in years, the environment felt human. Messy. Reyan noticed music playing softly from an old speaker near the window. Not algorithm-generated sound therapy. Real music. You live like this voluntarily? He asked. Lyra looked offended. Wow, you sound domesticated. She tossed him a towel. Dry off. You're dripping dystopia everywhere. Hours later, Reyan sat at her kitchen counter drinking real coffee for the first time in his life. Not synthetic neural caffeine. Actual coffee. It tasted terrible and weirdly amazing. Lyra watched him struggle with it. You've seriously never had authentic coffee? Most people haven't. That's depressing. You say that about everything. Because everything is depressing. Fair point, honestly. Lyra activated another projector against the apartment wall. Ancient psychological studies appeared. Brain scans, addiction charts, behavioral response models. This, she said calmly, is the real pandemic. Reyan leaned forward slightly. Dopamine dependency? Lyra nodded. Centuries ago, humans had to earn fulfillment through effort. She tapped the screen. Achievement, survival, connection, purpose. New charts appeared. Modern neural entertainment systems generated stronger dopamine spikes artificially than real life ever could. Reyan stared silently. People became addicted to comfort, Lyra whispered. Then she looked directly at him. Why chase dreams when your brain can simulate satisfaction instantly? The question landed brutally, because nobody did chase dreams anymore. Modern people consumed experiences instead of creating lives. Even ambition became unfashionable. Reyan suddenly remembered something strange from childhood. A teacher once describing historical revolutionaries with confusion. Humans used to sacrifice themselves for ideas. At the time that sounded insane. Now, it sounded alive. Lyra switched screens again. Now came classified Nexa files. Project Calm, Project Eden, Emotional Stabilization Initiative. One folder blinked red repeatedly. Comfort virus theory. Reyan frowned. What's that? Lyra hesitated briefly, then opened it. A document appeared written by Dr. Elias Varon himself. Humanity's greatest weakness is not violence. It is the desire to avoid suffering at any cost. Below it sat neurological research proving something terrifying. When humans become too comfortable for too long, motivation declines biologically, creativity collapses, resilience weakens, purpose disappears, civilizations slowly decay peacefully. Reyan's stomach tightened. Oh my God. Lyra nodded grimly. They discovered emotional comfort functions like a virus. Another page appeared. The human brain adapts quickly to easy pleasure, then requires increasingly stronger stimulation to feel alive. Eventually, nothing feels meaningful anymore. Reyan felt suddenly nauseous, because that described literally everyone he knew. Scrolling endlessly, consuming constantly, feeling empty anyway. Lyra crossed her arms. Nexa realized something terrifying decades ago. She looked toward the glowing city outside. If humanity became emotionally numb enough, a pause, people would surrender freedom willingly. Silence swallowed the apartment. Then Reyan quietly asked, "So why tell me all this?" Lyra studied him carefully. "Because you reacted to the archived footage emotionally. Varon said that too." "Yeah." Her expression darkened slightly. "That almost never happens anymore." A cold feeling crawled slowly through Reyan's chest. "What does that mean?" Lyra hesitated, then answered softly. "It means your emotional suppression might be failing." The room suddenly felt smaller. Reyan laughed nervously. "That's impossible." "Not impossible. Rare." Lyra walked toward the bookshelf and pulled out an old photograph. Actual paper. It showed a group of teenagers standing beside motorcycles laughing wildly into the camera. Real emotion exploded from the image. Messy happiness. Chaos. Life. "That was my brother," Lyra said quietly. Reyan looked at her carefully. "He died?" She nodded once. Nexa called it emotional instability syndrome. "What actually happened?" Lyra's jaw tightened. "He started feeling too much." The sentence chilled him instantly. Because she didn't sound metaphorical. She sounded terrified. Lyra took the photo back slowly. The system couldn't regulate him anymore. Her voice lowered. He became angry, passionate, obsessive, alive. Silence. Then quietly, they erased him. Reyan stopped breathing for a second. "You mean killed?" Lyra looked directly into his eyes. "I mean deleted." The apartment suddenly felt freezing cold. Before Reyan could respond, every light in the room shut off instantly. Darkness. Then, a giant holographic symbol appeared across the apartment wall. Nexa Security Division. An automated voice echoed calmly through hidden speakers. "Citizen Reyan Kapoor." A pause. "Your emotional profile has become irregular." Another pause. "Please remain calm." The apartment windows sealed automatically. Metal locks slammed shut. Lyra cursed violently under her breath. Then the final sentence arrived. Recovery agents are en route. The apartment sealed itself shut in under 3 seconds. Windows locked, doors magnetized, external networks disabled instantly. Nexa moved fast, too fast. Lyra grabbed a pulse pistol from beneath the kitchen counter, while Reyan stood frozen like his brain forgot basic survival mechanics. Move, she snapped. Right. Yep. Moving sounds smart. The holographic warning symbol kept flashing violently across the wall. Recovery Team ETA. O2114. 2 minutes. That's all the most powerful corporation on Earth needed to erase a problem. Lyra rushed toward a hidden floor compartment and pulled out small black devices. Put this behind your ear. Reyan stared at it. What is it? Emergency neural jammer. That sounds medically dangerous. It is. Fantastic. He attached it anyway. A sharp pulse exploded behind his skull instantly. Pain. Real pain. Not muted, not softened. Pure raw pain. Reyan nearly collapsed. What the hell? You're feeling reality without neural dampening, Lyra said while loading equipment rapidly. Welcome to being human. That sentence alone deserved emotional compensation. The apartment lights flickered again. Then every screen inside the room activated simultaneously. Dr. Elias Varen appeared across all of them. Calm as always. Perfect posture. Perfect composure. Like a man physically incapable of stress. Lyra, he said softly. Still disappointing civilization, I see. Lyra ignored him completely while hacking the apartment systems. Reyan stepped closer toward the screens. You erase people? Varen's eyes shifted toward him immediately. Emotionally unstable individuals threaten societal balance. That's not an answer. It is the only answer that matters. The room fell silent. Then Varen continued calmly. You think freedom matters more than peace because you were raised on old myths. Myths. That word irritated Reyan instantly. Varen gestured toward the city skyline visible through sealed windows. Look outside. Humanity no longer starves. Wars nearly vanished. Suicide rates collapsed. Violent crime became statistically insignificant. Objectively, he wasn't wrong. That was the disturbing part. Varen's voice lowered slightly. We cured suffering. Lyra laughed bitterly. No, she snapped. You cured humanity. For the first time, Varen's expression shifted slightly. Disappointment. Pain romanticists always say that. He looked toward Reyan again. But ask yourself honestly. The screens changed instantly. Historical footage flooded the apartment. Wars, mass graves, terror attacks, children crying beside ruined cities. Was this humanity worth preserving? The footage changed again. Now came modern society, clean streets, emotionally stable citizens, peaceful order. No chaos, Varen whispered. No extremism, no emotional collapse. Then his eyes locked directly onto Reyan's. People no longer destroy themselves emotionally. That sentence hit unexpectedly hard, because Reyan suddenly realized something terrifying. He had never truly suffered emotionally before. Not deeply, not uncontrollably. Every painful experience in his life had been softened chemically or neurologically before it could fully reach him. Even grief, even loneliness, everything buffered, everything muted. Was that mercy or imprisonment? A violent explosion shook the apartment suddenly. Recovery agents breached the building. Heavy mechanical footsteps thundered through hallways outside. Lyra killed the screens instantly. We leave now. She slammed open a hidden wall compartment, revealing a narrow escape tunnel. Reyan blinked. You have secret tunnels inside your apartment? You don't? Before he could answer, the main apartment door exploded inward. 3 armored recovery agents stormed inside carrying neural disruption rifles. Their helmets displayed glowing blue Nexa symbols. Emotionless, machine-like, One agent spoke mechanically. "Citizen Reyan Kapoor, you are experiencing unauthorized psychological awakening. Please cooperate peacefully." Reyan stared at them in disbelief. Psychological awakening? That sounded less like medical treatment and more like an exorcism. Lyra fired first. An EMP pulse blasted across the room. The agent staggered briefly. "Run." Reyan didn't argue this time. Growth. The escape tunnel dropped them deep beneath the building into ancient underground transit systems abandoned decades earlier. Darkness swallowed everything except weak flashlight beams. Reyan's breathing sounded too loud now. Too real. The neural jammer still buzzed behind his ear. And weirdly, his emotions felt sharper. Fear felt stronger. Thoughts felt clearer. Alive. It terrified him. "Why do I suddenly feel different?" he asked while they hurried through tunnels. "Because the suppressants aren't fully controlling your emotional range anymore. That shouldn't happen naturally." Lyra glanced back at him carefully. "Exactly." After nearly 40 minutes underground, they reached a massive hidden chamber filled with people. Not just hackers, families, children, old people, artists painting murals across broken concrete walls, musicians playing real instruments, people arguing emotionally over ideas. The place radiated messy human energy. Reyan stared around in disbelief. "What is this?" Lyra smiled faintly for the first time. "The archive." The underground settlement felt impossible. No neural advertisements, no emotional regulation systems, no artificial dopamine streams. People here actually talked to each other. One group debated politics loudly near a fire barrel. Another laughed uncontrollably over some stupid joke. A little kid cried openly after falling off a chair. Nobody rushed to suppress it chemically. Nobody muted the emotion. The child simply cried, then recovered naturally. Reyan couldn't stop staring. Everything felt chaotic and weirdly beautiful. A gray-haired woman approached them slowly. Deep scars crossed one side of her face. Real scars, not cosmetically removed. "Lyra," she said warmly, "you brought another one." Lyra nodded once. He saw the footage. The woman's eyes shifted toward Reyan carefully. "Then he's already changing." Reyan frowned. "What does that mean?" The woman studied him silently for a second, then quietly asked, "When was the last time you felt heartbreak?" The question confused him immediately. "I don't know." "Exactly." She stepped closer. They stole emotional depth gradually. Her voice softened. Most people didn't even notice it disappearing. The archive's leader introduced himself later as Jonah, former historian, former university professor. Currently one of the most wanted men on Earth, apparently. Jonah led Reyan through enormous underground vaults filled with hidden physical books, paintings, films, journals, and memory drives. Human history, unfiltered, preserved secretly. "Why hide all this?" Reyan asked. Jonah looked genuinely shocked. "Because they erased it." Cold silence. Jonah activated one of the memory walls. Historical footage appeared instantly. Massive protests, civil rights movements, revolutions, people risking death for ideas, for freedom, for meaning. Reyan watched silently while emotion built strangely in his chest. "These events don't exist in public records anymore," Jonah explained. "What?" "Nexa classified intense emotional history as psychologically destabilizing." Reyan turned slowly. "You're telling me they edited human history?" Jonah's expression darkened. "They removed anything reminding people what passion looked like." That sentence hit like a punch, because modern society genuinely had no passion anymore. Entertainment? Yes. Pleasure? Infinite. But passion? Gone. Jonah walked toward an old bookshelf carefully. "Human beings once built civilizations through obsession," he whispered. "Art, discovery, love, rebellion." He handed Reyan an ancient paper journal. Real handwriting filled the pages emotionally. Messy, intense, alive. Reyan stared at it quietly. People used to feel this deeply all the time? Jonah nodded once. Yes. A pause. And it terrified those in power. Hours later, Reyan sat alone inside the archive, unable to think clearly. Too much information, too many lies collapsing at once. His neural tablet suddenly vibrated in his pocket. Unknown signal detected. The screen glitched violently. Then a single video opened automatically. Dr. Varen again. But this time, he looked tired. Almost human. Varen stared directly into the camera silently for several seconds. Then finally spoke. You believe we stole humanity's emotions. A pause. But the truth is much worse. Static flickered briefly across the screen. Then Varen whispered the sentence that changed everything. Humanity begged us to do it. Reyan replayed the sentence 3 times. Not because he didn't hear it, because some part of him desperately wanted it to be false. The archive chamber sat silent around him, while the holographic message from Varen flickered weakly across the wall. Then Varen continued calmly. People did not want freedom. Static glitched briefly. They wanted relief. The screen shifted. Ancient footage appeared. Not the heroic kind this time. Not revolutions or love stories. Collapse. Mass depression epidemics. Suicide spikes. Digital addiction crises. Entire generations emotionally burning out under endless pressure. Reyan watched silently. Varen's voice lowered. Human beings reached a point where existence itself became psychologically unbearable. Another clip. Young people scrolling endlessly through old social platforms at 3 a.m. Medication rates skyrocketing globally. People terrified of loneliness, terrified of failure, terrified of themselves. The footage hurt because it felt familiar somehow. Even though Reyan never lived through that era, he understood the exhaustion instantly. Varen spoke again. So humanity made a choice. The screen turned black. White text appeared slowly. Comfort over chaos. Then the transmission ended. Silence swallowed the room. Heavy silence. Jonah stood nearby, watching Reyan carefully. You see the danger now, the old historian said quietly. Reyan looked up slowly. The scary part is, he swallowed once. He's not completely wrong. Jonah nodded sadly. That's why Varen won. The next few days inside the archive changed Reyan more aggressively than anything before. Not through violence, through exposure. Real humanity. Nobody inside the underground settlement used emotional dampeners. No neural mood regulation. No artificial stimulation loops. People here felt everything naturally, which meant life looked messy. Arguments happened constantly. Real arguments. Not algorithmically moderated disagreements ending in polite silence. People laughed louder too. Cried openly. Loved recklessly. Some days the energy felt beautiful. Other days completely exhausting. Reyan honestly couldn't decide which version of humanity scared him more. One evening he sat near the communal food hall, watching 2 musicians scream at each other over song lyrics. 10 minutes later they were laughing again. No emotional suppressants, no conflict mediation systems, just raw emotion moving naturally. Lyra dropped into the seat beside him carrying 2 bowls of noodles. You're staring again. This place is insane. She smirked slightly. Good insane or bad insane? I genuinely don't know yet. Fair answer, honestly. Lyra handed him food. Your brain is recalibrating. That sounds medically terrifying. It kind of is. She pointed toward the arguing musicians. You know why modern people can't handle emotional intensity anymore? Reyan shook his head. Because discomfort became unnatural. That sentence stayed with him. Because she was right. Modern society treated discomfort like a disease. Boredom, eliminated instantly. Loneliness, simulated away. Heartbreak, chemically muted. Nobody learned resilience anymore because nobody experienced emotional depth long enough to adapt. The realization made Reyan uncomfortable, which ironically proved the point. Later that night, Jonah brought Reyan deeper into the archive vaults. Massive underground chambers stretched endlessly beneath the city. Thousands of hidden artifacts lined the walls. Paintings, books, handwritten letters, human emotion preserved physically. Jonah stopped beside a giant digital timeline projected across the wall. "This," he said quietly, "is where humanity surrendered." The timeline zoomed forward rapidly. 2032, global mental health collapse. 2035, neural mood stabilizers released. 2039, emotional regulation normalized. 2045, Nexa founded. Then came the turning point. 2051, the Great Silencing. Reyan frowned. What happened there? Jonah's expression darkened. Nobody remembers fully. Not comforting. The historian enlarged archived footage carefully. Mass protests flooded cities worldwide, people screaming against governments and corporations. Then, violence. Massive violence. Buildings burning, riots, economic collapse. The world looked emotionally overloaded, chaotic, broken. Jonah whispered, "Humanity became addicted to stimulation faster than evolution could handle." Reyan stared harder. "What does that mean?" Jonah looked directly at him. The human brain was never designed for infinite dopamine access. Cold realization spread slowly through Reyan's chest. Social feeds, neural entertainment, instant gratification. Humanity overloaded itself emotionally until reality itself felt empty by comparison. Jonah continued. So when Nexa offered relief, a small pause. People accepted it willingly. Silence. Then quietly, they traded emotional freedom for psychological comfort. That night Reyan couldn't sleep. The archive buzzed softly around him while his thoughts spiraled endlessly. What if Varen truly believed he saved humanity? What if comfort really was safer than emotional freedom? Pain caused wars. Obsession caused suffering. Maybe humans genuinely were too unstable to govern themselves emotionally. His neural tablet suddenly vibrated beside him. Incoming restricted signal. Reyan hesitated, then opened it. Milo appeared on screen instantly. His childhood best friend. Perfect hair, perfect smile. Corporate lifestyle influencer energy radiating aggressively. "Milo?" Relief exploded across Milo's face. "Oh, thank God." Reyan sat upright immediately. "How did you contact me?" "Doesn't matter right now." Milo leaned closer toward the camera desperately. "What are you doing?" Reyan frowned. "What?" "You disappeared. Nexa flagged you psychologically unstable. Maybe because they're hunting me." Expression tightened instantly. "Reyan, listen carefully." Something about his tone felt wrong. Fear. Real fear. Inside the free communities, panic spread slowly. Some wanted to attack Nexa directly. Others argued it was already too late. Amara stood before the settlement council calmly, while voices erupted around her. "We cannot force humanity to stay human," one man snapped angrily. Another slammed his fist against the table. "So we do nothing while civilization dies? It's their choice." "No," Lyra cut in sharply. "It's manipulated choice." Silence hit instantly. Lyra activated a stolen Nexa data drive across the room. Hidden neurological files flooded the screens. Behavioral conditioning models, emotional suppression algorithms, dopamine dependency systems. The room darkened slowly as everyone realized the truth. Humanity's choice had been shaped for decades, not through violence, through comfort. Nexa trained civilization psychologically to fear pain more than losing freedom. Reyan stared at the files, feeling sick again. Because manipulation didn't make Eden less tempting. It just made the tragedy worse. That night, Lyra showed Reyan the final hidden file Jonah died protecting. Classified. Collapse protocol. She opened it silently. A hidden emergency broadcast system appeared on screen, capable of overriding every neural network on Earth simultaneously. Reyan frowned immediately. "What does it do?" Lyra looked exhausted. "It shuts down emotional suppression globally." Cold silence. Reyan blinked slowly. "You mean everyone would feel everything again? Fear, grief, pain, loneliness, raw human emotion returning instantly after decades of suppression?" Reyan's stomach tightened hard. "That could destroy society." Lyra nodded once. "It probably will." The terrifying part? She wasn't exaggerating. Modern humanity had become emotionally dependent on regulation systems. Without them, millions could psychologically collapse. Riots, mass panic, violence, the great silencing all over again. Reyan whispered carefully, "Then why would Jonah protect this?" Lyra's eyes looked glassy suddenly. "Because humanity deserves the right to feel honestly." Silence settled heavily between them. Then quietly, "Even if it hurts." Reyan barely slept afterward. He walked through the settlement alone beneath freezing mountain skies, while his thoughts spiraled violently. If they activated Collapse Protocol, people would suffer unimaginably. But if they didn't, humanity might disappear forever inside artificial paradise. Both choices felt monstrous. For the first time since this began, Reyan genuinely understood leadership terror. No good options. Only sacrifice. At sunrise, Amara found him sitting near the cliffs. "You're carrying impossible weight." Reyan laughed weakly. "Yeah, feels super healthy, honestly." She sat beside him quietly. The mountains stretched endlessly below them while cold wind moved through the trees. Finally, Reyan asked the question haunting him most. "What if people hate us for stopping Eden?" Amara didn't answer immediately. Then softly, "Parents still pull children away from fire even when the child cries." That landed hard, because humanity had become emotionally childlike, addicted to comfort, terrified of pain, unable to understand long-term destruction if immediate relief existed. Reyan stared toward the horizon silently. "What if Varen's right, though?" he whispered. "What if humans truly evolved beyond suffering?" Amara looked directly at him. "Pain is not humanity's flaw." A pause. "It is proof we care." By nightfall, the plan was ready. Lyra would infiltrate Nexa's central neural network during Eden launch. Reyan would broadcast Collapse Protocol globally. Amara and the settlements would help civilians survive the aftermath. Simple plan. Emotionally catastrophic consequences. Honestly terrible vibes overall. Before leaving, Reyan visited Milo one final time. Neo Delhi looked almost abandoned now. Most citizens stayed connected to pre-Eden immersion systems already. Reality felt hollow. Empty streets, silent skyscrapers, People physically present, but mentally elsewhere. The world was fading before it officially ended. Milo opened the apartment door slowly. Dark circles sat beneath his eyes now. "You came back again." Reyan nodded once. Milo looked toward the packed Eden registration bags beside the couch. "I leave in 4 hours." The sentence hurt more than expected. They sat in silence for a long time. Childhood memories floated quietly between them. Basketball courts, late-night gaming, dreams they once had before modern life numbed everything. Finally, Reyan spoke softly. "You know what scares me most?" Milo looked over weakly. "That you won't even realize what you lost." Silence. Then Milo whispered, "Maybe I already lost it years ago." That line shattered something inside Reyan, because he believed him. Milo wasn't weak. He was tired, just like billions of others. Modern life drained humanity emotionally until paradise looked preferable to reality. Milo stared out the apartment window quietly. "I don't want to hurt anymore, Reyan." The honesty in his voice nearly broke him. Reyan stepped closer slowly, then asked the hardest question yet. What if hurting is part of being alive? Milo's eyes lowered. Neither had an answer anymore. Hours later, the Eden launch began. Massive neural towers activated globally. Blue light flooded city skylines while billions connected simultaneously. Dr. Elias Varen stood at the center of Nexa headquarters, overseeing humanity's transcendence calmly. The world celebrated. News channels called it the birth of eternal peace. Meanwhile, beneath Nexa headquarters, Lyra moved through security tunnels alone, carrying the collapse protocol drive. Reyan monitored the infiltration remotely from an abandoned subway station nearby. Everything depended on timing now. One mistake, and humanity vanished permanently. Then everything went wrong. Security drones detected Lyra before she reached the core network. Gunfire erupted through underground corridors. Alarms screamed instantly. Reyan's headset exploded with static. "Lyra?" Heavy breathing answered. Then her voice. "I'm close." Explosions thundered behind her. "You need to prepare the broadcast now." "No. We do this together." Reyan listened to me carefully. Her voice shook slightly for the first time ever. "They're going to stop one of us." Cold fear crawled through his chest. "No." Lyra laughed weakly through static. "You know what's funny?" Gunfire echoed again. "I spent my whole life angry at humanity." The connection distorted violently. "But humans aren't evil." A pause. "They're just scared of pain." Reyan's chest tightened painfully. "Lyra!" Then came the sound. A gunshot. Silence followed instantly. Reyan stopped breathing. Static filled the headset, then barely audible. "Make them feel alive again." Connection lost. Completely. The subway station fell silent. Reyan stared at the dead transmitter while grief hit harder than anything before. Raw, violent, unfiltered. And suddenly he understood the terrible beauty of emotion fully. Love hurts because it mattered. Loss destroys you because connection was real. Pain wasn't evidence humanity failed. Pain was evidence humanity existed. Tears blurred his vision, while the Eden countdown reached final minutes worldwide. Billions smiling peacefully, ready to disappear. Reyan wiped his face slowly, then activated the collapse protocol. The world screamed, not physically at first, emotionally. The moment Reyan activated collapse protocol, every neural suppression system connected to Nexa shattered simultaneously. Across Earth, billions of people felt full emotional intensity for the first time in decades, and humanity was completely unprepared for it. Inside Eden centers worldwide, people collapsed to their knees suddenly. Grief returned first for many. Old grief, buried grief, the kind emotional dampeners kept sedated for years. Parents remembered dead children fully. Widowers remembered loneliness. People remembered heartbreak they never truly processed. And it hit all at once. Cities erupted instantly. Not organized violence, emotional overload. People cried openly in streets. screamed, panicked. Some hugged strangers desperately. Others broke down completely. News channels lost control within minutes. Broadcasters cried live on air without understanding why. The world wasn't experiencing chaos. It was experiencing honesty. Inside Nexa headquarters, alarms exploded everywhere. Emotional regulation systems failed globally. Eden synchronization collapsed halfway through transfer. Dr. Elias Varen stood inside the central control chamber, watching decades of work disintegrate in real time. For the first time ever, he looked afraid. Not for himself, for humanity. An executive rushed toward him frantically. Global psychological destabilization is accelerating. Screaming echoed through distant facility halls. Emergency systems failing. Workers panicking emotionally for the first time in their lives. Varen stared silently at the collapsing monitors, then whispered something almost nobody heard. We tried to save them. Meanwhile, outside, humanity remembered itself. Painfully, brutally, beautifully. Reyan emerged from the abandoned subway station into a city emotionally detonating around him. New Delhi looked unrecognizable. People sat crying openly on sidewalks. Strangers held each other. Some screamed at the sky in rage, and yet mixed within the chaos, something else existed. Life. Raw life. A street musician played guitar while crying uncontrollably. A couple argued passionately beside a train station, then kissed seconds later. Children laughed wildly in the rain without emotional stabilizers calming them down. Humanity looked messy again. Messy and real. Reyan stood frozen in the middle of it all, while tears still burned in his own eyes. Because grief for Lyra hurt unbelievably. But underneath the pain, he also felt something else. Meaning. She mattered. That's why losing her hurt. And maybe that was the entire point. Over the next 48 hours, the world nearly collapsed emotionally. Riots broke out in some cities. Suicide rates spiked temporarily. Governments declared global emergencies. People raised inside emotional sedation suddenly faced reality unfiltered. Many couldn't handle it. Varen had been right about one thing. Pain destroys unprepared humans, but he missed something important. Pain also changes them. 3 days later, Reyan broadcast his message globally using hijacked Nexa networks. Every remaining screen on Earth displayed him standing alone against the skyline of New Delhi. No dramatic speech prepared, no heroic performance, just honesty. Reyan looked exhausted, human, and maybe that's why people listened. He stared into the camera quietly for several seconds before speaking. I know you're hurting. His voice shook slightly. All of us are. Behind him, the city still trembled emotionally. Sirens, rain, humanity relearning itself. Reyan swallowed slowly. For years we were taught pain was a malfunction, a pause, something to erase. He looked down briefly. But pain exists because connection exists. Another pause. Grief means someone mattered. Tears blurred his eyes again. Fear means something is worth protecting. Silence, then finally, and love. A weak smile touched his face. Love hurts because it's real. Across the world, millions watched silently, not because the speech was perfect, because for the first time in decades, someone sounded emotionally genuine. Weeks passed, then months. Humanity didn't magically heal overnight. That's not how real life works. Some cities rebuilt slowly, others descended into violence temporarily. Without emotional regulation systems, people had to relearn resilience naturally. Therapists became more important than influencers. Communities mattered again. Real relationships returned slowly because artificial happiness no longer numbed loneliness away. The process was ugly and beautiful, human. Nexa collapsed within the year. Most executives vanished. Others faced global trials. But Dr. Elias Varen disappeared completely. No body found, no confirmed location, just rumors. Some claimed he escaped into a private Eden simulation alone. Others believed he wandered the world anonymously, watching humanity suffer again. Reyan honestly didn't know which possibility felt sadder, because in the end, Varen wasn't a monster. He was a man who feared pain so deeply he tried to remove it from existence entirely, and that fear nearly erased humanity itself. The free communities eventually expanded worldwide, not as anti-technology movements, as balance movements. Humanity slowly rebuilt a healthier relationship with progress. Technology still existed. AI still existed. But dependence? People feared that now. Parents taught children emotional resilience again. Schools taught discomfort tolerance. Communities valued purpose over stimulation. Humanity became imperfect again, and somehow, that saved it. 1 year later, Reyan returned to the mountains alone. Snow covered the trees softly while cold wind moved through the valley. The settlement looked larger now, alive. Children ran through the streets laughing loudly. Real laughter, messy laughter. Reyan stood near the cliffside, where he once questioned whether humanity deserved saving. Footsteps approached quietly behind him. Amara. You still carry them, she observed softly. Who? Jonah, Lyra, everyone you lost. Reyan looked toward the mountains silently. Does that ever stop hurting? Amara smiled gently. No. Strangely, that answer comforted him, because he no longer wanted pain erased. He wanted it understood, accepted, human. Amara looked toward the valley below. The world is struggling. Yeah, but it's alive again. Reyan nodded slowly. Far below, people worked, argued, laughed, failed, loved. Humanity hurt. Humanity hoped. Humanity lived. And maybe that was enough. That night, Reyan sat alone beside a fire, writing inside an old paper journal. Actual handwriting, actual thoughts, no algorithms optimizing his emotions, just honesty. On the final page, he wrote one sentence carefully. Maybe being human was never supposed to be comfortable. He stared at the words quietly for a long moment, then smiled softly. Outside, the wind moved through the mountains, while distant laughter echoed somewhere in the dark. Not perfect, not optimized, real. The fire crackled gently beside him, and for the first time in his life, Reyan felt completely human. Maybe the world was never supposed to become perfect. Maybe humans were never designed to live without pain, failure, heartbreak, or fear. Because the same emotions that break us are also the ones that make us real. Love hurts, dreams fail, people leave, life gets messy. But that mess, that chaos, that's where meaning lives. Reyan once believed happiness meant escaping suffering forever. Now he understands something deeper. A life without pain is also a life without growth, without sacrifice, without connection, without humanity. And maybe that's the real danger of modern civilization. Not evil machines, not artificial intelligence, but becoming so obsessed with comfort that we slowly forget how to live authentically. The world after Eden was not beautiful immediately. People struggled again. Society cracked. Humanity suffered. But for the first time in decades, people also felt alive again. They laughed harder, loved deeper, dreamed bigger. Not because life became easier, because it became real, and real things matter. So if this story leaves you with one question, let it be this. In a world constantly trying to numb you, distract you, and keep you comfortable, will you still choose to feel deeply? Will you chase meaning even when it hurts? Will you keep dreaming in a world addicted to easy dopamine? Will you stay human? Because the future may not be decided by technology. It may be decided by whether people still have the courage to experience life fully. The pain, the beauty, the uncertainty, all of it. And maybe, just maybe, being human was never about feeling happy all the time. Maybe it was about feeling everything. If this story hit you somewhere deep inside your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who feels disconnected from life, someone trapped in endless scrolling, someone trying to escape reality instead of living it. And remember, comfort can protect you, but struggle can transform you. Stay curious, stay awake, stay human.